reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening. Just a half an hour from now, President Clinton will come here to Capitol Hill to speak to Congress on the State of the Union in the midst of a war between the President, Mrs. Clinton, and Whitewater prosecutor Kenneth Starr. The President will try to put that on the back burner tonight as Congress and a gallery full of guests gather to hear the President's vision of the State of the Union. As for the scandal, it remains a war of words tonight with no clear winner. The Whitewater prosecutor, Ken Starr, still has not been able to make a deal with Monica Lewinsky, who's in the middle of all this, but he may be very close. And as NBC's David Bloom tells us now, that could spell big trouble for the president. David?
Well, Tom, there's no deal carved in stone yet, but sources say that in a tentative deal struck last night with prosecutors, Monica Lewinsky has agreed to testify that she did have sex with the president. Such testimony by the 24-year-old Lewinsky would directly contradict Mr. Clinton, exposing him to possible perjury charges. One source close to Lewinsky said of the criminal investigation, quotes, "It's not about sex. It's about whether or not Bill Clinton lied in a deposition in the Paula Jones sexual harassment case." This source adding, "That's why he's in trouble. That's where the problem is." But sources cautioned it could be days before any final deal is struck. One reason, prosecutors are said to be waiting for lab test results on a dress, which they believe might show physical evidence of a sexual encounter. On the Today Show this morning, the First Lady claimed that independent counsel Kenneth Starr's investigation is part of a, quote, vast right-wing conspiracy to destroy her husband's presidency.
Everybody says to me, how can you be so calm, or how can you just, you know, look like you're not upset? And I guess I've just been through it so many times. I mean, Bill and I have been accused of everything, including murder, by some of the very same people who are behind these allegations. So from my perspective, this is part of the continuing political campaign against my husband.
This afternoon, in a written statement, Kenneth Starr called the allegations nonsense, pointing out that Attorney General Janet Reno and a three-judge panel signed off on the new investigation because there was, quote, credible evidence of serious federal crimes. Meanwhile, NBC News has confirmed that Lewinsky met privately with the president late last month in the White House, only 1 week before the former intern swore in an affidavit that she never had a sexual relationship with the president. White House officials, offering an innocent explanation, said Lewinsky may have been distraught over having been subpoenaed in the Jones case and may have wanted reassurance from the president that everything would be okay.
What's the fight behind you?
Today in Washington, Betty Currie, the president's personal secretary, was called before a federal grand jury. Sources say it was Currie whose name was used to repeatedly clear Lewinsky into the White House long after she'd left her job there. And finally tonight, in the category of with friends like that, who needs enemies, Dick Morris, the president's longtime advisor and confidant, himself forced out in his own sex scandal, said today, and I'm directly quoting here, "I think that they are probably not going to be able to prove the charge of obstruction of justice or that he persuaded Lewinsky to lie. But," Dick Morris said, "they might possibly be able to prove the charge of adultery and therefore perjury." Tom?
Thanks very much, David Bloom at the White House tonight. Well, Hillary Clinton is leading the charge in her husband's defense, and it began this morning on Today with Matt Lauer. NBC's Andrea Mitchell tonight with more.
New York City before dawn. Wife, mother, first lady, first defender, emphatically denying charges about the most intimate details of her marriage.
I'm not only here because I love and believe my husband. I'm also here because I love and believe in my country.
Do you think he would admit that he again has caused pain in this marriage?
No, absolutely not. And he shouldn't. You know, we've been married for 22 years, Matt, and I have learned a long time ago that the only people who count in any marriage are the two that are in it. We know everything there is to know about each other, and we understand and accept and love each other.
Mrs. Clinton says her husband has explained his relationship with Monica Lewinsky to her. But like her husband, the First Lady still will not say what it was.
We've talked at great length, and I think as this matter unfolds, the entire country will have more information.
If an American president did have an affair in the White House and lied about it, would that be serious?
If all that were proven true, I think that would be a very serious offense. That is not going to be proven true.
And what about the gifts Lewinsky claims the president gave her? Some even bought during Clinton family vacations in Martha's Vineyard.
I think it's possible, of course, because if you know my husband, you know that he is somebody who will you know, say, Matt, how would you like this? I mean, I've seen him take his tie off and hand it to somebody.
She denies anyone ever warned her of a Monica problem. It all came as a shock to her and her husband.
You know, he woke me up Wednesday morning and said, you're not going to believe this, but, and I said, what is this?
So when people say there's a lot of smoke here, your message is where there's smoke?
There isn't any fire.
It was classic Hillary Clinton on stage and off, telling friends this is not a marital crisis, it's a political smear.
Either she knows something we don't know, which is what I'd like to believe, or she's kidding herself, or he's kidding her, and I'd like to believe that she knows something we don't know.
That he's innocent.
That he's innocent.
We get a politically motivated prosecutor who is allied with the right-wing opponents of my husband, scratching for dirt, intimidating witnesses, doing everything possible to try to make some accusation against my husband.
So tonight she'll be front and center, no matter what else may be true, fiercely believing that her husband is the target of one of history's greatest conspiracies. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
In an overnight poll for NBC News and the Wall Street Journal, we asked the American people what they wanted to hear when the president speaks on Capitol Hill tonight. More about the scandal or more about the State of the Union? The State of the Union was a clear preference by a factor of more than 3 to 1. NBC's Claire Shipman is covering this speech and the preparation, what the president hopes to achieve. Claire, what do you have for us?
Well, Tom, the speech is already prepared tonight. That's a record for this White House, and it contains no reference to the sex scandal. It's about an hour long. Aides say it's one of his best efforts, but the question now isn't the content, but really how he'll be received on Capitol Hill and whether the country will pay attention. Aides put finishing touches on the speech late today. The president went through another rehearsal, and others on Mr. Clinton's team worked the phones in an urgent, unprecedented attempt to assure a warm welcome from wary Democrats. Republicans, meanwhile, are expected to be polite and restrained. The bright side, a larger than normal television audience expected because of the crisis. Aides say it's a chance to put forward an ambitious agenda, including proposals to put aside all budget surpluses to salvage the ailing Social Security Trust Fund, increase the minimum wage, with details next week of a $1 raise over 5 years, spend billions more on education, and issue a stern warning to Saddam Hussein. The overall theme, this is a good time for America. But the president will also tell the nation this is not a time to rest, quote, but a time to build. And Mr. Clinton and his advisors are clearly hoping that the nation will be able to put aside the controversy for at least 1 hour tonight and listen to what he's proposing. Tom?
Thanks very much, Claire Shipman at the White House tonight. Is there really a right-wing conspiracy driving Bill Clinton's problems? In depth tonight, why some people think the Clintons should look closer to home.
Bill Clinton has handed the right wing one 2x4 right after another with which to beat him over the head.
Is Ken Starr in the middle of a big conspiracy to get the president, or is this just the Democrats' diversionary tactic? Up next, the very real threat of a military strike on Iraq. The preparations well underway now.
Why are so many small businesses so busy on Friday? They're using Fridays free from Sprint and so many...
In the administration theory, as we've heard Hillary Clinton today raise the allegation that the accusations of a sexual scandal aimed at her husband are being driven by a right-wing conspiracy to bring down his presidency. As NBC's Lisa Myers tells us in depth tonight, it's certainly not the first time this tactic has been used.
The First Lady's salvo appears to be a favorite Clinton tactic, fired off in almost every scandal from Jennifer Flowers to Paula Jones to Whitewater.
The never-ending fictional conspiracy that, honest to goodness, reminds me.
Guys who the conspiracy.
So all of these charges are tainted with the stench of partisan right-wing politics.
They've used it over and over again. It's the politics of demonization.
Demonizing the president's accusers helps rally Democrats and distract attention from fresh charges against the president. In Clinton's case, the conspiracy strategy often works, partly because there is indeed a core group of conservatives who consider this president unfit for office and are hell-bent on proving it. They operate anti-Clinton internet sites. One video, promoted by the Reverend Jerry Falwell, even accuses the president of murder and money laundering. The White House wants to portray the latest scandal as a cabal between Paula Jones and her conservative lawyers, a literary agent who spied for Nixon, and a former White House employee who has accused Clinton of misconduct before.